NFL with a game we like to call Overreaction Friday. Graz, you and me on this one.
Okay.
The Raiders should trade the #1 pick in the draft. Is that an overreaction?
Yes, it's an overreaction. The Raiders have plenty of picks. They need a quarterback. There's one quarterback in this draft it seems like that everybody really loves. Stay put. Take Fernando Mendoza. Make your fan base happy. Build around him with Clint Kubiak, the offensive-minded head coach you just hired. Hold on to that pick. Get your quarterback.
I mean, imagine making the trade. And,
Yes.
and then the next question is going to be, so what's the plan at quarterback?
Right.
Which has been a question for the Raiders for a couple decades.
For quite a while now, yes.
All right, number 2. The Vikings should bring back Kirk Cousins. Is that an overreaction?
No, I don't think it is. The Vikings need to bring in someone to at least provide competition for J.J. McCarthy after the disappointing season he had. You bring in Cousins, who's been there, who likes it there, who probably didn't want to leave the organization in the first place. If he beats out J.J. McCarthy, then he beats out J.J. McCarthy and you have somebody who can play. If he doesn't, he's probably a good guy to have around as a mentor for J.J.
Oh, at least someone could be getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. That is a problem they absolutely have to solve based on what we saw last year. All right, number 3, Nick Sirianni enters the 2026 season on the hot seat. Is that an overreaction?
I'm going to go with no. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think you can only fire so many assistant coaches before the focus starts to turn to the head coach. And they've been in this pattern where the offensive coordinator does well, he gets hired as a head coach, they promote somebody else, and they have a tough year, and then they bring in, so they went a different direction with offensive coordinator this time. Young guy, untested, Sean Mannion. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't, if this offense doesn't get off the ground to a greater extent than it did last year, I do think we're going to start hearing those things.
The wildest situation.
I know.
Every other year they're in the Super Bowl, and then every other year the quarterback's on the hot seat, the coach is on the hot seat.
It's Philadelphia, man.
Only in Philadelphia. Speaking of which, Jason Kelce, former Eagles center, was asked that very question yesterday about Sirianni on the hot seat. Here's what he said.
I wouldn't say going into the season that Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat. I wouldn't make that statement. But if things don't go well, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles are like, listen, we want to abort and try something new because that's the way this thing is going in the league.
All right, Bart, let's start with you. What question do you have about Nick Sirianni heading into the season?
Well, when you talk about being on the hot seat, which everybody's on the hot seat in Philadelphia, I wonder if he's going to take control and take the narrative, because that's, if you look at the trend in the NFL, is all about fracking and guys trying to do exactly what they see as successful. We see McDonald, making sure that he takes over the side of the ball in which he's best at. When we look at all the new coaches that are hired, you look at Joe Brady, is he going to call plays? You look at Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn, you look at Robert Saleh, Sean McVay, Brian Schottenheimer, you look at LaFleur. It seems like if you're going to go down, then you need to go down taking control of what because what happens is you bring in an offense coordinator, he becomes good. If he does a great job, he gets hired as a head coach. So why not just take control of it as a play calling head coach? That way you can ensure that you have continuity and consistency at the position.
Speaking of continuity, I'm missing this one, guys. Been to the Super Bowl twice, won a championship. 40% of the NFL change head coach. 40%.
Yes.
The teams that have mental toughness have a built-in sustainable advantage when they don't have all the turnover that you just alluded to. Like, continuity matters. He's done a great job. Has it been perfect? No, but before you let him walk out the door, guys, who are you going to get that's going to have a better record?
He did the same thing to Doug Peterson.
3 years. He got 3 years after winning the franchise's first Super Bowl, and then he was out on his rear end. So, look, it can be unforgiving there. It can be difficult there. To Jason Kelce's point, it may not make sense right now sitting here in the offseason, but you get to week 8, 9, 10, and the offense still doesn't look good, I think there's going to be some chatter.
Especially if Dallas is on the rise and the Giants are on the rise.
Yeah.
Eagles have been able to beat up on Big Blue for a while.
Sure.
And they start bouncing back, that's going to be a big issue.
And he's fired his coordinators before, so you run out of people to fire. At some point, you got to point the finger at yourself, and they have a high bar there. It's
a production business, right?
Yeah.
Like winning the division, doesn't that matter?
Sean McDermott just got fired. He's in the playoffs literally every single year.
But that was 9 years.
I understand.
And I don't think that was a good decision either.
I agree.
All my point is, if he walks out the door, look at his record and who you're going to bring in that's going to surpass it.
Yeah, the question wasn't should he be on the hot seat.
Right.
The question is, could this happen? And the Eagles have
yes.
shown us that it can happen that quickly.
So much talk about A.J. Brown and the wide receiver position in Philadelphia, but there are other positional groups we should be looking at as well.
Oh, yeah, well, the offensive line. I think that's the key question because Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach, was there for 13 years. He's not there anymore. These guys have grown up in that program, a Jeff Stoutland-directed program that develops offensive linemen at a high level in Philadelphia. They're going to have to replace him, and it's not going to be easy. And then you look, Lane Johnson probably getting toward the end of his career. Is it possible he retires? Landon Dickerson, even though he's only 27, has been making noise about possibly retiring. So they need to make sure and stay on top of that, which is something that Howie Roseman does well, but it's going to be even more important as they enter this era of transition.
Offensive line, such an undervalued position. It took until this year to finally create an award for the position. You lose a coach like that. Like, how big a blow is that to the offense?
I mean, it's the voice. It's the steady and calming voice on the sidelines when you need answers. And that's what players always need. When you come to the sideline, you're having adversity. Who can give me the answers of what's going on and how do I correct it? And, when we talk about the offensive line, I think something else that they're going to have to address, especially because Phillips is going to become a free agent. They really struggle to really get to the passer as well. They have tremendous corners, tremendous defense, but they didn't get to the passer at the rate that we thought they could get to the passer at. And I think they're going to have to address that position as well.
You've been in the position before where you have to look to address coaches, address assistant coaches. How are the Eagles going about this, in your opinion? Is this going to be as big of a problem as some think it is?
I don't think so. Look, they brought in Chris Cooper, not a household name, but he's a solid offensive line coach. To Graz's point about the offensive line, it hasn't been ideal, but to me, you draft another guy, maybe Landon Dickerson retires, you squeeze one more year out of Lane Johnson. Not ideal, but I got to tell you guys, when you speak to people around the league, you look at rosters, even though that offensive line isn't where it once was, most teams would say, wow, I'd rather have their line than my line.
Yeah, but it clearly slowed down Saquon Barkley. He wasn't the same player, and it's because he wasn't able to hit the line and get 4 or 5 yards before getting touched.
I want to get some thoughts on this. Yesterday, Jeremy Fowler was on the show. He intimated that Philadelphia could look to the draft for the quarterback position. Not in the first round, but maybe day 2. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think more likely, let's look for an extension for Tanner McKee, somewhat of an underknown backup, but he's going into the last year of his deal, played at Stanford. They like him. He's played well at different points, be it preseason or some spot opportunities. So I think there's a better chance that they try to extend him than maybe draft somebody else. He would have a marketplace. Look, this year we know there's so many quarterbacks, teams that need quarterbacks. There would be a market for him, but I'd be surprised if he left that building.
Philly going for the trifecta. Coach on the hot seat, wide receiver drama, and then let's go ahead and bring in another quarterback to really up the ante for the summer. Phil's better win a lot of games so people can turn their attention in another direction. Coming up, the news that has the Ole Miss fan base doing the rebel yell. Meanwhile, on planet Earth, check this one out. A rabbit hopping around the field at an Arizona State softball game against Indiana.
He's not hopping.
Well,
He's
about
sitting there.
There
he goes.
Silly rabbit trick.
Minding his own business, watching a game.
How do you even go about catching a rabbit? Look at that speed, Bart Scott.
I'll tell you what, back in the day, my grandma would have made him stew.
Okay.
There we go. 8:17 in the morning. Some would say the second best on-field performance by a Bad Bunny this week. I don't write the material, but I do find it humorous. Look at that. How long do you think this lasted for?
Until the rabbit got out of the stadium. You can't. There's no re-entry.
All right, let's go back to the